So this topic, we're going to talk about the new long-term storage fees, because Amazon's completely switching up how they were doing it the past few years, and it's, in my opinion, a big hit to a lot of third-party sellers. So if you look here, what the previous long-term storage fees were, the way it was charged, it was every 6 months on February 15th and on August 15th. I've talked a lot about this. I have recorded a series on this in the Matrix on how to deal with long-term storage. And basically, they would charge you $11.25 per cubic foot for 6 month storage, essentially, between 180 days and 365 days. And for anything that was in their system for more than 365 days, it was $22.50 per cubic foot. What that meant is that based on the size of the product, how much space it took up in their warehouse, in their system, determined how much you'd pay for it on these dates if they were in the long-term storage program. So if they were if their inventory age was between 181 days and 365 days since Amazon received it, they would charge you, things are, you're not gonna have many items that are this large in general. So a shoe can be charged maybe between $1 or $3, depending on how big it is and things like that. Some products that are oversized may be charged $5 to $6. I've seen extreme cases where things were, incorrectly labeled. So we've had products that were charged $11 to $16 that were not that size, in which case, separate issue completely. But in most cases, you'll see very small charge for these products because it's based on their size. Now, if we think of it this way, let's just assume everything is, let's say it's 6 month storage as the bare minimum. If you're paying $11.25 per cubic foot for 6 months, you want to get that on a monthly level. That's effectively $1.87 per month for that product if you want to think of it as a monthly charge. And that's assuming it's just 6 months. Now, this technically included between 6 months and up to a year, and there was even ways of bypassing that, because the example that I love to give is if you send a product in to Amazon, they receive it February 16th, 6 months later when they would charge you long-term storage on August, it hasn't been there a full 6 months yet, so you get 6 months free, and then you get basically until February 15th of the next year until it's charged 6 month storage in this bracket, and then 6 months later, if it's still in stock, they'll charge you 12 month storage. So there were ways of bypassing that. But if you want to just think of it strictly, okay, as of 6 months, you can think it's $1.87 per cubic foot per item as the bare minimum. Now, what are they doing come September 18, 2018? It's going to be the 15th of every month. That's common to what their theme is. But they're charging $3.45 per cubic foot. That's basically double what they would be charging previously, and they're charging it every month. So not only can we not bypass the previous system by sending it in a specific dates, it's now going to be charged every single month. So every month that it doesn't sell, every piece of inventory is going to be charged, for example. So let's say you have an item you have large quantities in stock on. A big problem with this is that, once long-term storage would traditionally hit, whatever quantity you have in stock at that time gets charged for the previous 6 months or however time it was at Amazon. In this case, you'll get charged for different quantities each month because things will sell out slowly, but that just means the earlier months you're being charged more. So this number, even if it's $3.45 per cubic foot, the more inventory you have, the larger impact it's going to have each month tiering until you get less inventory. So this is going to change drastically how we decide to hold inventory, decide what we want to purchase, how long we want to keep things there, because we only get effectively 1 month free by using our previous system. If we send something in there, they receive it on the 16th, you get that 1 month free that doesn't count for their long-term storage. That's the only thing you get to bypass, instead of our previous 6 month bypass period up to 11 months and so on and so on. So this is going to get very expensive, and I don't like how they're doing this. And especially, it would make more sense if they did this, but kept this fee or even lowered this fee as an incentive. They want to clean up the database. They don't want to have dead inventory that people aren't buying, obviously, on their platform. But at the same time, they're just overcharging so much here. I just don't know exactly the best tactic of how to handle this just yet, except being a little smarter with your buys, being a little bit more conservative and not buying things on the whim that they might sell, because now if they don't sell, you're going to be charged extra per month. Now, if I'm also understanding this correctly, because Amazon also changed their monthly fees last year, I mean, well, they're changing their monthly fees coming in April, but it's very minimum. It's 5 cents per cubic foot. But as we know, since last year, Q4, they basically quadrupled their fees for each month already. So now if you have products in long-term storage, this is somewhat negligible in the grand scheme of things. But 4 times the amount for monthly fees plus the doubled or increased long-term storage fees every single month, your monthly storage fees are going to go up drastically during Q4. So it's really going to change how we're sourcing, and we have to come up with a good method on this. So I just want to kind of speak about this to get this in your heads to think, well, come September 15th, when this effect takes change, anything in your long-term storage program, regardless if you sent it, February 16th or not, is going to start being charged September going onward. So you'll miss the August period for those items that you sent in after February or after February 15th. But everything else, they'll continue to be charged the next month going forward, which is super frustrating. So the question is, what's the difference between the long-term storage fees and the monthly inventory storage fees? So this gets charged every month anyway. It takes out of your account based on the quantity you have in stock and how much space it takes up. But like here, it's 64 cents per cubic foot. And because most items don't take up a full cubic foot, you're paying a few cents per item. It's very, very small fee unless you have thousands of SKUs, in which case it's a few $100s or so. So it's not that much money in the grand scheme of things, because this is just how they have to charge monthly storage fees in general, because you're using their warehouses. It makes sense that they do that. And for oversized, because oversized are larger, they're charging less per cubic foot because they know it's going to take up more space. It seems like they're going to be doing that going forward, because it's not going to be replacing it unless they do this instead of the monthly storage fees, which I don't know yet. I can ask Amazon, but I remember reading the article and not seeing that it was going to be an exception. So I want to err on the side of caution, because I don't think that it's going to go into a separate bracket, because long-term storage fees are a separate fee for having things past a certain amount of time. It's a separate fee for like penalizing you. Oh, you have this for a long time. This hasn't sold. We're going to charge you for keeping this in our space. We could be using this more, better. So either recall it or we're going to charge you more. That's a separate fee, in my opinion, based on the monthly fee. Now I can investigate and find out if that's 100% true, but I don't know yet. I agree. They should charge one or the other. Right. So I can follow up with Amazon to see if that's the case. I agree that should be the case, because that makes more sense, changing your monthly fee to just be the long-term storage fee once they pass that threshold, because you're being charged a higher fee, which that makes sense. If that's the case, that'd be fantastic. I just don't know yet. I'm doing a little more research into it. So I want to open the floor for some more questions, because I was talking for quite a while. If there's anyone in the Facebook group or watching the Zoom webinar at the moment that have any questions, because we're getting back on schedule. Because I started this early because I knew I was going to talk a lot about this. But hopefully we'll come up with actual strategies for this. But I just think be a little more conservative with your buys. Anything you have that's sitting there longer, you maybe be more aggressive with your pricing earlier on, instead of waiting, let's say 3 or 4 months, wait 1 to 2 months or something like that, or buy less quantities. Or if you have things large quantities, wait to send more inventory in if you have the capability of holding inventory. And for items that aren't moving at all, try sponsored ads, try to get them to move. And if they're not moving, what's going to be the hardest part to do this now is that we can figure out with Amazon reports how much you're going to be charged per item from these fees. So, or if you figure out what the actual cubic foot for your products are, you can divide this and get the actual amount you're being charged. If you want to calculate that out and figure out I'm paying this much more per month after this certain point in time, figure out at what month will you start to lose money, or what month will you start to at least break even or reach the point where even if at selling it, is this worth it? So it's going to be a lot more projection to be done to figure out how long should I keep this inventory, because they're being charged every month and it's more than they would be charging more per month, but it's not being charged at one point in time. you have, it seems to be because it's about doubled, you have 3 months until it will equal the same amount as long-term storage fee. But it's going to be on an item-by-item level, since they're not charging you a specific date and time for everything. They're charging you on a specific date and time for anything within the program at a certain month. So each month you're going to have different inventory that's going to be charged, which makes it harder to evaluate as a whole, which is my main method of doing this. And if you've seen my long-term storage series, I pretty much just get everything into an Excel spreadsheet and, make bulk decisions based on how long they've been there, how many units sold, how much they're being charged. If I could project a certain number of units to sell in the next term until the next long-term storage or the next few months, let's say, will this overcome the amount we're being charged? So now, because the fees are going to be doubled and charged each month, waiting that extra few months for it to sell may not pay anymore because it's going to be charged each month more than it was previously. So it's going to really change how we do things, and I don't like it, if I'm being honest. It's going to make what I do with long-term storage significantly more difficult, and we have to be a lot smarter with our buys. So if there's no questions in the Facebook group or in the chat, and Jaquel, is there anything in the Facebook group? We can figure out what it is per pair of shoe. Oh, so sorry for the people that can't hear. One of the questions in the Facebook group was what it would be interesting to find out what it'll be for per shoe or per pair of shoe. So that can be found out either by just dividing. If you know the dimensions of the product, you can figure out how much cubic feet it takes up by just doing the dimensions by inch, because you're going to have the inches. So let's say it's 6 by 12 by 3 or something. Just multiply those 3 together, divide it by 12 to get a per foot, and you can figure out how much cubic feet it takes up, and then divide 345 by that, so you know exactly. Well, that'll be 345 divided by that to figure out how much is actually going to be charged. So the one thing I was going to say about this then, the other thing is if you get the inventory age reports or I believe the fee preview report also does it in the report section on Seller Central, you should be able to find the cubic feet and the amount it'll be charged monthly. Definitely with the inventory age report, they'll have that. However, I don't know if it'll update with this information yet because this hasn't taken effect yet, so it'll still be calculating these fees. But in any case, you could figure out what the per unit is based on this and then work it around to figure out how it will come to be for this. Because if you have the cubic feet, you can just figure out, this, multiply this per cubic foot. I said divide earlier, I made a mistake. Multiply this by the cubic feet you found previously and you'll figure out. Because it'll most likely be less than, the right amount. Yeah, so you'll get you basically just have to make it a factor of feet instead of inches because they're going to give you the amount of inches. So if you just, convert it to feet from there, do 12 divided by the amount, let me see if there's one online actually. Let's take cubic inch to cubic feet. So let's say we have a shoe. It's 12 inches on the long side, 6 inches on the wide side, and 4 inches on the top side. So 12 times 6 times 4 is 288. That comes to be 0.1667, repeating, cubic foot. You multiply that by the 345. That'll get you the amount you're going to be charged. So 3.45 times 1.667. That's going to be, 0.167. I misspoke there. That comes out to be 57 cents per item. So for that unit given. So this is basically just doing 12 inches divided by 288 to get you in terms of feet. I may have misspoke earlier and said the reverse again. It's been a long day. Well, it's not exactly 12 by, but because it's cubic feet. So you can do something like that just to figure out this information if you want to do it that way as well. But Amazon should have the reports to tell you exactly what you're going to be charged per item.